How's it going, everybody? Darby here at GenAIU University, tuning in for this week's session of the Claude Mastery Sprint. We've been spending week after week now learning, mastering Claude through implementation, keeping up with the new updates that Claude continues to ship with us, like Cowork recently, and learning how to leverage Claude to integrate into our business. Good to see everybody. Marcel, it's a fantastic background you got there.
To Amsterdam.
Raphael. Amsterdam. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. How's everyone doing today? Happy Thursday. What's going on, everybody?
Yeah,
Good to-
let me open. I'm very happy with the co-work.
Yeah.
Still using it on, let's say, a tryout basis. But yesterday I followed this YouTube show of Alex Finn, and he taught me to use his prompts. And basically, it's a reverse angle that the co-work asks me what I should do today. And he delivers that with ready-made prompts that you can put into co-work. And I must say, today I've worked with that flow for the first time, and yeah, really worked well for me. I was able to the roles, so I don't have to think of what to do on a certain day, but Claude asks me what I find most important, what my to-do list is all about, and then suggests me how to help me with the specific Claude skills that there are. So it's reverse angle,
Very
and
cool.
that's what I like. I think the whole co-work community, so to speak, is exploding at the moment. A lot of online Substack posts, etc., etc. I'm still a little bit confused about this sprint, whether to follow the path, let's say, code literacy, or stick to the co-work experiments I'm doing and then try to reach a level for co-work. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts and others in this masterclass are thinking about that.
Totally. Yeah, no, I'm really glad to hear that you've been getting more use out of Cowork, that you're finding other ways to use it and work with it. I think the way these tools are built, Claude, Claude Code, Claude Cowork, are designed to be very adaptable for any different type of workflow. I think the most important thing to walk away from this sprint is not that I have the answer to everything Claude related. It's that are you using it in a way that works for you and actually like doing stuff with it and making progress forward there. And I'm not the best coder in the world by any means. I'm getting better with Claude Code and building my own stuff with it, which I'm learning a lot myself by implementing and doing stuff on my end. I'm not using Cowork near as much as probably you are, even Marcel and a lot of people right now. And I think that's totally cool as long as it's working for what we're doing and we're making progress forward with it. Keeping this as a space that we can learn and adapt and learn from each other and what we're doing is important. And I always put an emphasis on actually implementing what you're doing with these tools. And if there is any specific question around like the coding side, we can obviously try to get into it as best we can on these calls. But again, there's depending on how much time you have on your side of the field, you, anybody else here that's going through implementing stuff with Claude, you will learn new things. You will discover new ways to work with Claude, to prompt with Claude, new skills to make that will work better for you. And if code is not something that you care to learn at all about right now and Cowork is working for you, I would say don't even worry about the code side of it and just crush it with Cowork. There's no point in overwhelming yourself with a thing that is not like pulling you in that direction when Cowork comes out of the blue and handles how you want it to work for what you need it to do. Hope that makes sense from my side because like Cowork didn't exist when we started the sprint, and it was a very much a thing that came out that made accessing the agentic side of what Claude Code could do for the non-technical side, which I think is great. And so this is one of those points in adapting and being able to implement AI, but also pivot as we need to. These tools are always going to change, and knowing when to pivot and adapt and adjust your workflow accordingly is just as important of a skill as understanding. You don't have to be like the world's best coder to make moves here. Let me see. Anyone else? Let's kick things off with some more wins too with this, or how you guys are winning with this. Because again, we're 3 weeks in. We've covered a lot of projects, connectors, skills. We've covered getting set up with Claude Code. And now Cowork is being implemented as well. You can access Cowork currently if you have a Mac on Claude Desktop. So you'll need to download Claude Desktop, log in, and you could start to work with Cowork. It's not currently, as we're recording this, as far as I know, available on PC. So I haven't been using it quite as much, but getting started with it, you have to have a Mac right now. And yeah, how's everybody else been doing with Claude? We've been implementing this week. Any wins, big ahas, insights?
I've got a question.
What's up,
Um,
John?
I did something this morning and I introduced basically a brand document into Claude, discussed with Claude what I was going to do with it, and said, "Would you like me to create a skill?" And I said yes, and it said I've created a skill, and it didn't. And I've had this happen a few times before. Is that normal with Claude? Do I have to go through is there a song and dance I have to do to get them to do it? They created the skill MD, but and said, "Oh, it's all ready for you. We're going to use it forever."
I've had that situation happen to me a few times where it said it made the skill and it acted like it did, but I was like, there's nothing here for me to download or copy to my skills. When that happened over the weekend for something. I think what I asked it to do is make it so that I could like actually copy the skill directly to my account so that I could just download it directly. And I had to ask it like twice and it did it. It's situations like this where I think Claude is just having a moment and it's not doing what it's saying it's doing, and it's being having a weird AI type of thing where it says it's doing it, but something broke. It's not doing it, but it's still saying that it did. I felt like a similar sort of experience. We were covering this. I was talking with some other people about that were also having the experience where it would run and do a long execution and just stop and then not continue it. And then you'd have to like reset the chat and or just come back to it later. And I found that to be sometimes I just need to give it a break and then come back in a few hours later even and then have re-ask the same prompt and restart it from there.
I also found an issue in the last few days. My iPhone got updated, and if I if I talk into it as an instruction and I don't stop the microphone, it just posts what I spoke and does nothing with it, which is it's happened a number of times. So now I've gotten in, I have to close the microphone, shut the microphone off before I hit the submit button. But it's very strange. And I rebooted several times with it and it was still doing it. And it was still doing it today also.
Like you were speaking into it and it was posting it without editing it, or it wasn't posting it and it was just,
It would just post it. It would just show me what I said, but it would then the screen nothing. There's
yeah.
no turning dial or anything.
I ran into the same thing as well. Again, I think this is some of the limitations that we run into with just tech, and Claude just has an issue. And as frustrating as it can be, sometimes I've realized I just need to step away from the computer for a minute and give Claude a break for some of this stuff. I was running into the same thing with Claude Code over the weekend. Like I was middle of a project and I was giving it instructions and it was just like grayed out and not doing anything with them. And then, I came back to it the next day and I said continue and it started to go. So
Oh, you put just continue? You wrote continue and it
I think
went?
I saved what I wrote and then I jumped back into the chat and then it like restarted the Claude and then I don't know if it's overloaded on their servers or something is happening. I didn't look up anything online to see if other people were having this issue. I just assumed it was Claude's having a moment. I need to give it a break, come back to it. And
So I won't take it personally then.
no, it's happened to me a number of times in the last week as well. And it's just one of those things where you step away. Or sometimes I found that it does it more, even if I'm on my phone, but then it works better on my computer, but not always the case either.
Okay,
Yet
thanks.
yesterday I was in the middle of a project and it was going so well, and I'm like, I like it, he likes it. My boyfriend Claude, everything was going great, and then all of a sudden, what they started he gave me was what happened to the other section. We'd already finalized that, and like Claude just kept putting its own ideas in and taking out other ideas. Like I was almost done. And I had to start saying, please don't change anything but what I'm asking you for. It literally added, I thought you were my best friend. This has been a horrible day. Oh, horrible. So you think it's easy, but everything has its own little blip.
Yeah. Bruce, I saw your hand go up. first?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just had a couple of nice wins.
All right.
The first is I was able to create a go high level MCP in Claude. And so I found a couple YouTube videos, of people who had done it, but it wasn't working on my PC. They were Mac users. And so I keep getting these error codes. And then Claude pointed me to the logs. And so I went into Cursor. I gave it my JSON or desktop Claude desktop config.json file, and then I gave it all of the log files. And I told Cursor to look through the log files and look for errors and try to figure it out. And after 2 or 3 rounds, it finally gave me the right config. And then that opened up, and the Cloud connection or MCP to go high level worked. And so the big thing that I was trying to do was just to be able to create and post a social media post. I don't really care about trying to change contact information or move pipelines and stuff like that. That's nice, but I really want to automate the content creation. I want it posted through high level for our clients. And so I was able to just in having a conversation with Claude, give it an image URL and then the text, the caption of it, and I got it to post it with a scheduled date. So that was a huge win. Now, I said I wanted to make a change, and when I made the change using the MCP, it posted it immediately. So I changed the image URL, but then it posted the thing immediately onto the social channel.
Mm.
So it like completely forgot and screwed up the scheduling date. And then I scheduled it for review, but it didn't put a name in for who was supposed to review it. So you go into high level and you can't approve it because it's pending review, but there's no name associated with it. So there's no one who can approve it. There's still some glitches there. And I'm thinking that there's MCP that runs with intelligence above it, and then there's the API that's like the absolute direct call into the software. And so I think MCPs are great because they're easy, but I don't think they're probably as reliable as when you get down to the API level and you can give it very specific commands, do this, do that. So I don't, does that maybe make sense? You think that my thinking is correct there on that?
I haven't probably explored as much with the go high level, like API versus the MCP, like side of things. I think
Mm.
like you probably, I don't know. I mean, from a technical standpoint, if you have a direct way to make the API call outside of like the MCP connector just inside of a chat, like you could probably get it to be more consistent.
Yeah,
Charles,
Charles,
that's like he's
thanks, Charles.
agreeing
Yeah,
on that.
yeah,
I think there MCP is still a relatively newer thing also in the grand scheme of things. So I imagine it'll get better and more reliable over time, even now versus a year ago. It's pretty just from like my Notion MCP, for example, used to be like not reliable whatsoever. And now I can update like a full page of Notion from Claude and have it be pretty on point. I haven't tested it with a API call because I'm just wanting
yeah.
to have it update from
And
within there. But
maybe it learns over time too. The more you use it, the better it might get. So that's for sure. I think as I'm putting this in my mental schema of when to use MCPs and when to, do the extra work to build out APIs, I think MCPs are great for on the fly and for testing and casual use. But if you're going to build out production stuff that's going to go
mhm.
frequently, probably need to go to the API level. I don't know if Charles, if you agree with that idea or not, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree. If you're going to do production, try to use API, but I use MCP all the time in Claude Code. I use anti-gravity. I used to use Cursor, but I use anti-gravity now for my IDE. I use MCP to push to Supabase database a lot, and it works. And if it doesn't work, it's going to tell me that it's not working, and I'll just work with it. But the flexibility of it is so amazing, and
Mm.
just not having to go through the trouble of hooking up an API is just wonderful. So it's two trade-offs. Two different constraints. You just have to know which one matters in the
Yeah,
context.
yeah. And the other win is I was able to run multiple agents at the same time using Cursor and Cloud Code. When you can start multitasking, when you got these long things running, You can run multiple things at once or give it the command and walk away and go eat dinner and come back and take a look at the outputs. These are definitely getting way beyond where we started with recipes, Darby, and having to nurse it along at every step and tell it, yeah, this is good, this isn't good. Now we're getting to the point where they are starting to become nearly autonomous agents. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Bruce. My win for the week was there's like probably two or three more minor edits that we found last night that I'm going to go back through on a new site. But I've been building out a website for a project with Claude Code specifically. We got started with Lovable, but realized we needed to actually build the site beyond like a Lovable kind of site prototype that we were going to be embedding inside of a Webflow. And like my win with going through and getting through this sort of project experience was a part practice and not getting overwhelmed by all the different edits that we were needing to make because I didn't want to build it by hand inside of Webflow at all, but we needed to move beyond what Lovable was doing to be able to own like more of the code and build it more directly inside of the website. So I'll share like what the site like ends up doing, but basically some of the process that I use that I found really helpful here in doing this for those of you that are using Claude Code to build like custom code for web pages or other stuff, just sharing some of my experience and going through this process and learnings. So it may be useful for you as you're going through this. But basically, like this whole marketing website is for people to go to and then download the app that we've created for real estate agents. And so 100% of this site, besides like the nav bar and the footer, is like this is all embedded with Claude Code, all like HTML, that sort of thing. And so it's got all the sections, it's got all the copy in it, and it all works on desktop and it all works on mobile. And like I said, there's probably two or three things on here that we're wanting to create and modify. But what I found, like, because we went through a few different iterations in getting this to the final form, what I found whenever like getting started with this process is having one main thread in my Claude Code for starting to build and modify and do. I'm not going to read through all of this. I'm just saying like there's just a lot of back and forth with it. But what I found was like whenever, because I'm working with a partner on this, and so it was very iterative. And so I was getting feedback. We were making updates to the design. We were modifying things here and there. And so what our process was for iterating on this that saved me like a ton of time in general with making any of these updates was getting feedback via screenshots and then a Loom video that would walk through, hey, let's change this, let's update this. And the more specific that we would talk through those edits, getting that transcription. And then what I would do is I would use, in some instances like this, I would use Claude to like help with understanding the context of what I was trying to do here and then writing out the series of instructions to make all of the edits in like in one pass and then let Claude Code do its thing and it would push all of these edits to the GitHub for where this project was like being edited and that sort of thing. So getting different branches set up inside of the GitHub, I had made like different variations of it just to make sure that if Claude Code screwed up the code on one of these, that I had like a backup branch. That was my main concern is like I didn't want to get all this work done and then go through another batch of edits and have it just completely screw up all the code that I did on accident. And I would just ask Claude Code to make a different branch whenever I was going back through different iterations on those edits. And then we ended up yesterday to pretty much the final version. There's only two or three things that we're going to update and tweak from here. But then all the code for that page is built in the like the Webflow embed HTML file here. And so I literally just copy this and do an embed onto my Webflow and it displays here just like that. And so I've had a couple other pages that I've been able to make with that same approach and on their own different branches. But for me, my learning and takeaway from building out this page like that was just being like super intentional with like when I was making edits, how I was like making sure that I had the right branches in place so that I was editing the right code and that I was being incredibly clear with the instructions to do it and not trying to like rush through some of the feedbacks and like just taking it very, very specific. And I would give it like multiple ways to update the copy and the website like all at once, but using Claude to help with refining exactly the details that we wanted to update any specific section on the page and giving it screenshots. It would do it pretty much on the first pass and get it the right way every time. And then it was a matter of just doing like really particular like feature fine tunings for adding different scrollability or a few different functions here or there. That was my workflow for getting that page up and getting a better feel for like where it makes sense and how to make different branches inside of GitHub to make sure that I was working with the right code and that I knew exactly which code was exactly what I needed it to be for any specific update. After I had the right criteria from like the first time I was transferring the lovable kind of layout in the creative direction, like the site is totally mobile responsive, Bruce. You can go to it right now if you want to and just see. I did have to give it some really specific parameters when I was first building it out to make sure that it like locked in on the creative direction and the formatting and the flow of just how it was going to be stylized. But once that was in place, it just made all the updates pretty much anytime I needed it, it would do it pretty much on point. For those that are like looking to use Claude for building a marketing site or a page that they can embed other apps or things like that. Yeah, I did use the word mobile responsive in some of my commands to do it. If it's showing up really weird on y'all's phones, let me know or whatever. But we've been testing it on our end and it seems to work pretty well. But that was one of the things that we found with some of the early iterations of the site was like if we didn't tell it to structure it so that it was mobile responsive, it might not be necessarily right out the gate. That was my win this week on the Claude code front. And I know you could do that for building out a site that you can embed on like a Go High Level page too, and all of that. Like we literally just embedded the code inside of embed the code here inside of Webflow, and that would work. I think if you're looking to build out any custom pages, then thanks, John, for confirming that. One of the things that we will update there is as we do more product videos, as we do more demos, as we do more like customer case studies, and we have like additional like text-based ones or we have video-based ones, we'll be able to go back into that code. I'll make a new branch and then I'll be like, hey, update this section with these 3 embedded codes. And then it'll just embed those codes directly there, like any sort of product loop or product demo. Or if we wanted to embed any sort of anything else, we could just do it right inside of that GitHub. Yeah,
So
that was Bruce, that was a request as my partner wanted to have it scrollable on those sections for the mobile. It could be very easily reverted to. That's the thing. It's like, hey, this section scrolls like this. Can you instead make them just stack like this? And then just have to be very specific with the code of it. And so it would spend a lot more time just like thinking through exactly how I'm going to give it these instructions and then just knock it out in 30 minutes to not have to backtrack work. I think somebody else came off of mute.
Me, Darby, just a clarification. Hey, thanks, Darby. Just a clarification then. Can we build Go High Level landing pages using this? You haven't referenced Go High Level before. It's been Netlify and Webflow and Lovable, but not Go High Level. So we can do the same Go High Level.
So the reason I say that is because when I have built stuff inside of a Go High Level account, I'm not actively using Go High Level for any projects right now. But I know when you're building out a landing page in Go High Level, you can drag like an embed code form and then have embed code, right? Like you use Go High Level. Have you done that on the page? You make a template, embed the code here type of thing.
I've done it on Groove, but I've never done it and I've done it on Keep, but I've never done it on High Level. Yeah, so it makes sense. It can be done, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is maybe part assumption because I like haven't tested this specifically on it, but like the point being, and it's because we've been deploying it on Netlify and doing that sort of thing. But I was just like, I don't want to rebuild the whole site, right? We're going to have another version of this website specifically built with React and with the team that is our development team. But this is like a middle ground site that's going to work for us for right now. So I just wanted to get it to where I could embed the HTML directly under our Webflow and have it just do that and be done with it. And when I'm looking at like this, for example, like I just assumed that like you can do this and go high level, and maybe Charles, like maybe you've had a different experience with how it is, but if you can drop in custom code and give it the HTML, I assume it would work the same way because you could copy this entire HTML like here and then like basically create a new go high level like landing page that would you would just drop that code in directly and then have it appear. So I use Webflow for this stuff. And so I don't know, let me pull up a page and just
I don't think Go High Level will let you, unless they've changed their code in the last 6 months, which is the last time I worked with it. It wasn't letting us do the whole, you don't have the controls that you need inside your HTML. You'd literally be just almost using it like a container. You'd have to have everything. I don't think it's right now working. So
okay. Yeah.
that'd be
Again,
my
so I
take.
may be a little assumptive on this, and I could totally be wrong with Go High Level, but I was like, I use Webflow, so maybe a little bit different for how it displays.
What you'd have to do, Tim, is you would build out the page shell, and then there's code elements that you could drop in. And it would be either you'd have the header and then one giant section, and then you could drop in the code for all the content, and then maybe put your footer on the bottom. Or another idea might be to have the various sections you want of the page and just copy the code section by section into each section. So those would be the two ways that I would do it.
Yeah, so
Bruce.
Yeah, because
I'll
that's
show
the only
you.
way. You
Yeah.
can't do a full code, a full page of code. It has to be, it's only a section element, an element in a section that the code can reside.
I'll just show you on Webflow, and to me, it seems like it
Thanks.
would work like this with any other like page builder, but I can't really speak for them because I haven't tested it. But this is like a page in a website on our Webflow that has a header. So like this section is just right here, and then it has this footer. And this page currently was just like a type form embed. And so like I just embedded a type form page onto here, and the type form displays on this page. But if I was like, and so for example, oops, it's not working. Looks like I need to update my domain configuration. Let's
Of
see.
course you do.
Now, Webflow just had a bunch of big updates that I need to get to. I've just been too busy with other stuff. So I just don't think I can republish to the main domain, which is fine right now. This is just a tester domain to show how this would work from the embedding side. So yeah, so like I've embedded a type form, and this is just a template that I made. So that is there. Cool. That's all I see on this page is this embed in this section in the middle of the page, and I could add more of these if I wanted. But so basically, like for the other site and how this would work here is I would just copy the HTML code that Claude made for the website and then come in to Webflow and then delete, embed it. I did find the limitation in Webflow, which is important to mention here if anyone is using it. Like, is like it would only take up to 50,000 characters, which apparently like the first few versions I made of this were way more than that. And so I had to have it like refactor the code and rebuild it to be a lot less code to do the same thing. And it did it. But that was part of the initial iterations that took a little bit more back and forth with Claude to make sure it was able to fit in that section. And that might cause some sort of limitations down the road. But now you see I just embedded it, and now the site is there. I don't know why this line is right here, but you see it just immediately display on that front. Oh, I know why. It's because the background is a different color. And so if I'm in Webflow, I would just change the background from black to matching whatever color I wanted here. And that would be the case. And so if I wanted to build a bunch of other landing pages specifically for our site, our color, and our brand scheme and all of that sort of stuff in HTML format, I could just have a style guide and make different branches in a GitHub project and then make different edits like based on that. And I would just make sure that my GitHub and everything was set up there. Hope that's helpful, Tim. I think the same thing would apply with the Go High Level. I'm not sure, but that was where like Claude Code could help with building out those HTML type of pages.
Yeah, that's great, Darby. Thank you. I'll try putting it into the sections first and play with it and see what happens.
I think my frustration using it in Go High Level was that you're not really getting that what you get while you're working on it, you're always having to flip out to the preview. And so you got these just lines of, like in the middle of what Darby was just showing us, you saw this where the script goes, but you couldn't actually see you couldn't work with it like clay, like you would expect to be able to do in a builder. So you're getting a trade-off there, but you can definitely stack those. I just found it to be so flipping back and forth and all, it wasn't worth the trouble. That's just me.
Thanks for that.
What you could do is if you did have a custom, like one section of a page that you were building in a platform and just wanted one code, or like you made a calculator or something like that with a Claude code or whatever, or an artifact with Claude, and you wanted to embed that into a page, you could do that like similarly, I think, and just have that be like one section inside of a page, not necessarily needing to build the whole page.
Cool.
Any other wins? Any other maybe roadblocks from using Claude Code, Claude Cowork, projects, connectors, skills? I think if you know how to make your own skills, you can get very far in Claude these days without needing to do a lot of other coding beyond that. But yeah, Tim, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, so I used the other thing that I did, and then I'll shut up. The other thing that I do is I used the press chief skill
Yep.
to build out a media campaign for my coaching offer, and it built it out for 90 days, and then I asked it to turn it into something that I could import into Google Calendar. So it took .ics file, which I then imported into Google Calendar, and it then also created the .md file, and it imported the .ics file. And so I have 90 days of schedules and tasks and reminders and to how to make this media campaign run. What was interesting was the .md file had different dates to the .ics file, so there was between the two. But it was great. I now have a 90-day press campaign to launch what I'm doing, which is fantastic. Now, I told it to tidy up the .md file and bring the two in line, and it did. And so I was able, but then I had to work out how to delete everything that I already imported to then start all over again. But yeah, so it was a great one. So I used the press chief skill to do that. So thanks for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you bet. I know I heard a few other people using it too. Just found that to be helpful on my end. I've already connected with a few different media outlets here in Austin since starting that last week, that just very quickly getting in touch with them and getting press releases and all that stuff built out. It's pretty helpful. I'm so glad you put it into use. That's great. Does anyone have any skills or anything else on the win side or otherwise? But I'd be happy to jump into a skill building exercise here too, just to kind of like walk through, because I'm sure that would be helpful for some people watching this, especially when you're in Claude Cowork. You can tap right into skills like Marcel for like the work that you're doing in Cowork, and anyone else that's using Cowork. I've noticed that, I don't know if he's on anymore, can have them reference your skills directly in your account. And so I think if you're going to build out more and more skills, it's only going to make your Claude that much better. If that would interest anyone, or if anyone has any other wins or any ideas for what could be a really cool skill that you would use, but maybe you haven't created. Charles, I see your hand.
So the last probably 3 months, I've been using a lot of things I really get from other resources. But to me, there's lots of resources, plugins that are given away, but a lot of times implementation is always the issue, or knowing how to get from one place to the other. But one of the things that has helped me the most is creating crit sessions, which are sessions that Jeff Woods, who's from the Gary Keller, The One Thing, he basically made a business out of the one thing. What's the one thing that if you could do or did it, it would make everything else easier or unnecessary? And he came up with this idea of a crit, which is a context. It's a prompt, basically an acronym: role, interview, and task. And then using a digital twin concept where you have a panel and you consult the panel for whatever question you have. So if you're trying to figure out UX, UI issues, you ask Claude to run a crit session and find panelists out in the wild, basically, that are world-class experts, and build a YAML file or a JSON, either one. A file can be an MD file, but just build a profile for the ones that you're going to use. and you just keep them in a library in your project or whatever you're working in. And so that you over time build a library of experts that you can ask questions about how they would do a thing. And what that does is it keeps Claude from thinking in one sort of cognitive lane by these experts basically argue with each other. So they'll express their opinion about the question that you're asking, and they will disagree or agree or whatever. And then the third round, usually you try to get them to concede and come to some concession, some outcome that you're looking for. But it's just a way that you can use Claude as a strategic advisor as opposed to just all the tactical stuff we use it for. So if anybody's interested in knowing more about that, I'd be happy to come on the call and share how to do those.
So I have a question. Do you think that is something that as a skill, Claude would be able to like tap into that framework as like a
Well,
strategic
that's what I
advisor type
do.
of framework?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I turned it into a skill
Yeah.
so that it runs. It's looking for the things to be in place. You have to set those up, but it can also build them. Once you have an MD file that tells it how to build a profile, then all it just does is goes and looks for it and sees how to do it and does it on the fly. So an expert on the fly, you can have it in short order, and then just continue on with what your question is.
Do you have to give it the expert that you want, like in as part of like how you're setting up that skill, or is the skill in such a way like use this skill and act like Tony Robbins or act like
Yeah, you just say you can name them. You can name them by Tony Robbins or Stephen Covey or whoever you're trying to. I'm
Got it.
building an app that's for triage, helping me focus on the most important things. And so I've got a whole library of all the experts in there that I can find that have anything to say about time management, focus, deep work, all these things. And so I will let them tell me how the software should be built. But then they don't know anything about software design. So then I use experts about software design to decide like whether I should use Supabase or MongoDB or what am I giving up in one case.
Yeah.
In another case, I want to see the delta between the two so that I'm now making a decision about things I don't know anything about because I'm not a developer. So they're surfacing the issues for me. And then I don't know the answer to that. You guys hash it out and tell me what you think and then do it. And you can get really, really far that way because you're calling on experts. But yeah, you just got to set it up. It takes about half an hour to set, maybe 45 minutes to set everything up, and then you can have it for the rest of your life. Did I answer your question?
You did. I just kind of want to use what you were saying as like a prompt to see how like Claude would approach this. Also, I think if you're open to sharing more details about how you're structuring that stuff,
I can
that
share
would
my
be
screen if you
cool.
want. Claude might be down right now.
Then I guess I'm out of a job.
Yeah, Claude's been down for the last pretty much ever since we've been on the call. There's a website called downdetector.com, which will give you the status. I'll put the URL in
I imagine
chat.
Claude's been having a lot to manage with all these people jumping in and jumping into co-work.
Probably. Oh, it's starting to go now. But another win for me is Nate. Somebody mentioned Nate's newsletter. I get a lot of good stuff from him and people that want to apply principles. He has one called a good judgment. It's a good judgment process. And it basically challenges you to go through it and answer 10 questions about rating yourself on how good you think you are on basically different aspects of judgment. Everybody here should do this thing because it is so eye-opening. I'm just having a lot of fun with it because it will push back on you. It will call you out. It will make you get specific about things that were like drifty, soft on as far as how. Let me give you one example. When we're working with Claude, sometimes the problem is we're not clear on our task. We're mushy. Okay. So we don't have clear gates. So Claude does the best it can at it. So if you have a way to bring clarity in your context, that's the first C of crit, context, and by giving it actual tasks that have almost like KPIs, they're measurable, then it can create gates that it will then build a check off as it goes through the task. That's how these long running tasks are able to happen because you can set things up like Ralph Wiggins plugin is one example where it checks off these gates and then it clears the context. And so that it can open up a new session almost and keep going because it's got everything it needs to both keep the context manageable and stay on track with what you're trying to do because you've got clarity in the plan that you've created up front. And these tools, as we use them, sometimes I think we're all so tactically focused that we don't really realize the strategic benefits we get by using them to help us think better. And that's what I'm really all in on right now, is that.
That's a powerful use case.
Did you get it to do anything? Did you want me to show you anything, or
I just
can
took
do
the
that?
I just took the transcript that you were talking about, and I asked
Okay.
Claude if he could take it and work a skill off of it. So
Yeah.
I'd be curious,
And the
like
question
how.
about skills earlier, that was like, if
Mhm.
the skill doesn't work, one thing you might want to try, I can't remember who asked that question, is just tell Claude, because sometimes it won't build the header right when it does the skill. Just tell it to use Anthropic's skill requirements to build the skill. And then it'll go out and look and see what that is and do it the right way.
Yeah,
So
there's
you,
like the actual skill builder skill
yeah,
that Claude will
yeah,
know how to do. That's a
yeah,
trigger keyword that will probably get it right on track.
yep. If anybody wants to know more about how to do these crit sessions or do digital twins or the panels or whatever, that's probably something I could share with you all sometime if you ever want to know more about it.
John, I'm just referring to the transcript that Zoom is recording from our conversation right now. I have the ability to save the transcript during these calls, and I just copied what Charles was saying and gave it to Claude to do this.
Is this in Zoom where you can grab it on the fly?
I don't know if you, as an attendee on the Zoom, have that capability, but I, as the Zoom room owner, I could select transcript. I don't know if you guys can see that on your end. If you click transcript, I'm not sure if it's like a general Zoom setting or not. I just click start transcribing, and now I have an active transcript on my screen.
I see it.
And then I'm saving. Do you have a thing that you can save transcript,
Yeah,
save chat?
it's there.
Yeah. So if you do that, then you'll be able to see the thing. And I've thought about doing this before for stuff like live, but I just got the idea when you were talking about it, Charles. It's like just in general about approaching building skills and stuff that may be helpful for those of you that are like talking with clients that are maybe needing skills built, but they have the framework or like the concept around it. Instead of retyping out everything that they're saying, you could just do a live transcript call here and then use that to start to build
Yep,
stuff.
that's smart.
So it looks like I went to more and then transcript and it opened a little window, but it looks like it only starts
Yeah,
at
only
the
when you
point
start.
I said
That's
transcript.
what I realized. So I caught Charles like right as he started to do it,
Okay.
like on my end. I think it's more of like a general maybe tip for Zoom and
Yeah.
interviewing people and then getting context out live versus
It's just,
waiting for
it's
off
I
the
think for
call.
the way you're using it, you grab something people said, then
Mhm.
trying to recreate it and type it.
Because I was doing that earlier this week on another call with another mastermind group. We were interviewing them live on the call. What's the process that they're looking to do? And then I basically built the skill out for them right there. But then I realized I probably could have done it in about 10 minutes less time by just like having them spit it out. And then I didn't say use Skill Builder for this. So I'm hoping that it'll take that architected VIP hackathon crit session template.
Make sure that it uses the right acronym when it does crit. It should be context, role, interview, and task. And the purpose of the interview is to ask you refinement questions, like 3 or 4 refining questions. If you don't know the answers to the questions, ask it to consult a crit session to answer the questions. So you're literally using a meta kind of a loop there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. What a wild time we live in these days.
No kidding.
It's amazing. I'm in a candy store every day I get up.
Yeah. So y'all more than welcome $200 for this prompt, this skill. It's going to change your life. I'll share my Venmo in the chat. No, I'm just playing. I love how easy Claude makes it to just download and share these. There's still like the organizational side of getting them to whatever, but not having to share them in a Google Doc. Then what doc did I find or what Notion library is this in? Where do I need to go and find it and paste it to then just add it right to your account? So it did it here. So it structured it, crit sessions. I don't know who April Dunford is. I know who these people are. So it looks like it made these profiles and it did this purely off of Charles's prompt, by the way, guys. So if we're going to credit anyone to like the context around this, is purely Charles. And then like I gave it to Claude and was like, let it rip. But I feel like Charles with this, like in modifying this, if anyone is taking a skill like this and doing it, if you have ex designers that you look up to or follow their best practices, or maybe that could be a case. I could see a maybe like an enhanced version of this where if you actually had like books or processes or like in-depth research from these different people inside of a Claude project, that the skill could then reference that Claude project to go deeper. I could see that being a way to add more layers to this. So what would be like a question here if we copy this to our skill?
Darby,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but I'm just seeing your desktop with Gen AI through the
Yes,
middle of it.
exactly
Are
right.
you,
I wish somebody would have told me that 10 minutes ago. You guys, that's my bad for not asking you guys. I could have sworn I was sharing my screen. Anyway, this would have been a lot more exhilarating to watch instead of looking at my logo for this whole time.
Oh,
This
it
is the
looks
logo
really
with all like
nice.
we're doing this live, everyone. Okay. Please let me know if I don't like yeah, it's a cool logo, but not that cool. So like context role interview task. Okay, so it did pick up on that. So anyways, I asked Charles a question. Charles was like, here's the deal with how to do this. He spit out the instructions for basically what this skill was that he had gone through his process on, but I had activated Zoom's transcript to start to live transcribe it. And after he gave me, I think 80 or 90% of what like the context was for it, I saved the transcript on my computer and then I uploaded it. No,
It's
I
spelled
started uploading it and then I realized it cut it off. And so I had to go and upload the whole thing. What were you saying, Charles?
I'm going to put the proper spelling just so if people look for him specifically, they can find him.
Oh, it's GEOFF
Yeah, he
Woods.
he's come out with a thing called the AI driven leader.
Yep.
This is a workbook off of it. He didn't write the book, somebody else did, but that's his business now. One of them anyway.
Yeah, so that's a note there.
I guess it's okay to hold up books on this on your thing, Darby. I didn't ask.
Don't worry about it. It's no biggie.
On other people's shoulders, no matter what we do here.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so like Charles, you gave me this. It went through this whole process. It broke it down. Key point, you're now making decisions about things you don't know anything about because they're surfacing issues for you. Asked me then, do you want to build the skill, create a crit session template you can use for market sauce or VIP hackathon strategic work? And it knows this about me. So it actually is customizing a little bit to where some stuff that I've already built, which is interesting. And then it draft expert profiles for domains relevant to my business. So this skill is actually going to be a little bit more custom towards me. There's probably another meta layer of this that I could ask it to say, now create the instructions that I could give to anyone that could run this to customize it inside of their Claude account, which we could do that right now also. And we could share, or I don't know if we'll have time on this call, but basically,
I'd love to see you actually run a session if you had time, because once people get their head around the concept, you'll be looking at all kinds of use cases for it.
yeah. So I'm going to let it run here. And I know we're right at the hour, but I'm going to give this a little bit more time to run through. So if you guys want to check this, if you do have to hop, I understand it, but do an actual demonstration of the session. And then I'll have the skill uploaded inside of probably the recipes area or something along those lines inside of the community for those of you to access yourself. Yeah, so it's like refining it, it's updating these templates, it's updating that section.
And the
Just
nice
like,
thing is, it's not just going on what I said. It's actually going out and researching, who Jeff Woods is, and it's actually gathering more data on that to build this skill.
yeah, so look at this. So I'll probably get, I'm not going to talk about StoryBrand here. They don't like people talking about their stuff on YouTube if you're not a certified StoryBrand person. You got Hermosi, you got Seth Godin, offers pricing. So it knows about Gym Launch, which if you guys follow Hermosi, that was his book before all the $100 million stuff. Seth Godin, permission marketing. Okay, cool. So it went through and it updated and refined these. So now it's going to say key changes, expert profile, reframed, context questions, interview tasks, ask I don't know, as the skill MD, profile structure, full name. Okay, so yeah, we got business strategy session, Jeff Woods. Is that Jeff Woods with Gary Keller? That's not mistaking it.
Gary Keller hired him to build out the one thing as a business.
Oh, okay, okay, I get it now. That makes sense. I
Yeah,
was
you
wondering
would be
what
in real estate. You'd know that. You'd know.
I didn't make those connections there on that front. And then the stuff with the AI driven leader, that makes a lot of sense now. So it's got these profiles, and this is all inside of this session here. So we got Gary, April Dunford. So
So
it's
the
got all
concept
these.
is if you
Yeah.
guys could have these people to ask a question anytime you wanted to, what would that look like? How would that change how much faster you could go?
So let's do
What
it.
we're able to do is compress time now because you don't have to assemble actual people and go travel places and convene these things, even run them in parallel, run multiple ones in parallel. It compress time so fast that the compounding over the rest of your life is just incredible at how fast you can go making good decisions.
Love it. So let's run a test here, just like to see, like we've got the skill, we've copied it into our account. This retails for $799.99. Now can I share profile files with you guys here? There's going to be a delay between this gets out anyways, and obviously anyone watching this on YouTube is going to need to join our community to get access to this type of stuff. It's just part of the deal, but that's what you guys are here for. So I'm going to share this in the Zoom chat, so you guys should theoretically relevant working with AI. So what we did here, and I don't know if you need to run Thorsten or not, but like the context here was like taking this, building a skill so we have an expert advisor board following this crit session analysis to be able to help us make better decisions from a strategic angle. And so now the question would be like, okay, now we have this crit skill. We have all these different advisors, marketing experts, tech implementation. If I went into a project and then I asked it to run a crit session on me based on something else, it should run this crit session skill based on like that project and then give me insights to things I might not even know or think about could be asks. Yeah, Thorsten, if you want to go and jump in, I'm going to run it as
Yeah,
we're doing here, but
I didn't want to interrupt, and I have some parts. I have some bad connection here at the moment, but just for whatever reason, I couldn't get a head around how you set this up and what this link, Charles, that you were sharing, how this all works together.
The link I shared was different. The crit is different than the link I shared on the judgment thing. Just
okay.
Those.
And so my question was basically how to set this up, what steps to take. Maybe I missed it because of my bad internet connection, or maybe it's too late here in Germany to follow for whatever reason. I just couldn't get a head around this. How to set this?
Watch what he's doing right now. Watch the output here, and this will give you at least the concept.
Yeah, so this is my first time seeing this too, but it's pulling this based on information that we're doing for like a live comedy show that we're running in a few weeks. So this is all an actual thing that's happening, and I have no idea what it's about to say. Like,
but how did you set up the crit skill? Is that something you can purchase, or is that something you set up yourself, or how? That's the missing link for me.
He just did it on the fly while we were sitting here. So it was basically taking the transcript where I described it, and he took that transcript and gave it to Claude, and Claude just built it for him, basically, by him asking for the skill to turn it into
crit is a known framework that I can basically look up in Wikipedia.
Yeah, look up Jeff Woods, look up Jeff GEOFF Woods and crit framework.
Okay.
And then just ask Claude to just ask Claude how you can build that as a skill.
Okay, so it's an existing framework that Jeff Woods invented or uses, and okay, that was the missing link. And then obviously you can ask Claude to set up a skill using that.
Right.
Get it? That was helpful. Thanks, Charles.
Yeah, and so it's like getting context about the current state, and that's asking phase 1 context questions. What's the one thing? Feb 5. Yeah, so I'll just say priority is filling seats for February 5 and landing the first sponsors for that show.
Now, one of the things that can slow people down is right here is this context part, but it's hugely important. What I would recommend, Darby, ask, because you have context here and already knows how you think about your business, ask the AI to fill out the questions for you by intuiting what it knows about you and your business, but for your approval. And then it'll go ahead and populate those, and then you can just correct it if it's wrong on anything.
Okay. For phase 1 context questions, answer these questions based on what you know about me, and then present those answers for my approval or my modification based on what you already know about me to be true. Because some of this stuff is interesting. It's bringing it up because I've had a separate thread that was like, if we were to land like a corporate event with this, like that could be another revenue stream, but it's not the one thing that we're focusing on right now. And so like I don't want to like have it pivot and focus on that direction because like I know the thing we need to be focusing on is the tickets and the show on February 5th. Like that.
Yeah, and
has,
in order to keep
yeah.
it from being too broad, make sure you have a clear question you come into it with. I want to run a crit session. I want to answer whether I should
Yeah.
have my thing in Houston or Dallas or whatever. Just whatever the specific question is. The more narrow you can ask the question, the better.
Yeah. So basically it's like selling out like Austin first would be like the number one priority. I don't know if we'll get to that point for the Feb 5 show, but nothing else really matters outside of like sponsors and ticket sales for this upcoming event. That will lead into other opportunities, at least from my perspective. And I guess that's part of where we're talking to it. So if this is what it's identifying, I'm trying to talk through this too, so that like maybe this is helpful for anyone else watching it for like how I appreciate your direction here too, with like, giving it more specific things that you're focusing on will help it with running this analysis. So I would say like ammunition first, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So I would approve number one. And then what does success look like here? My read sold out or near capacity, at least one sponsor activated. Yeah. So we have a few conversations that we're having right now. We're already doing the video. So that's already in process. We're doing this. These could come from people that are going to be in the room. And so that's part of we can sell additional shows and experiences from this one. Hard ticket number. So I need to give it a little bit more context. Full energy. Yeah, biggest constraint, time and bandwidth. That would be true. It's actually it's referencing the spreadsheets too, which is really interesting from what we've given it. So contextually, it knows everything that it needs to know right here for where we're currently at. And so I need to make sure that it gets
just in the name
updated
of
stuff.
time, or in the interest of time, you could just say you approve. You approve phase one, go on to phase two,
Yeah.
and then
So
and then
I approve phase one, and the ticket sales max capacity is 150. My goal is to get into 100 tickets for this first show on Feb 5. All right. So now it's going to pivot towards the phase
now
two
it wants to know
questions.
who you want to ask. So
Okay.
it's gonna give you opportunity to give it who do you want to ask,
Phase two
or it'll
locked
make
in.
suggestions for you.
Biggest constraint. That's this. Okay. So who actually needs to say yes for your next big win? I read 100 tickets, sponsor. It's a good point.
A quick question, Charles. Don't they, if you've got so many different experts on the same thing, each one has his own theories, principles. Doesn't it get confusing for which scale or which approach to use in terms of the crit?
AI doesn't get confused. It just has to be guided. Okay. So if you have, let's say I have 30 experts and I'm asking about focus, deep focus, obviously it's going to surface those experts that are narrowly defined by that. So the more specificity you give it, the narrower it's going to be in terms of the experts. But you can also guide it. You can say, I want to use I want to use Gary Keller. I want to use Stephen Covey. I want to use, just give actual names that you absolutely want there. But sometimes you say, who is the best for this particular thing? Give me the 3 best or the 5 best, and tell me why you chose them, something like that. So now you're not only giving it we're trying to get rid of cognitive load on our decisions all day long. Put it on the AI, let it do the work for you, and you just simply make the decision. Yeah, I like that. Oh, he chose him because of this. I didn't think about that. That's a good reason. Okay, fine. Well, that sort of thing.
Okay. I still believe that if you're putting several experts at the same time and you're letting basically Claude decide which of the systems or principles to use or which experts advise to use, basically, wouldn't you want to first say, as you said, which ones you recommend for this answer and which ones would you take on board in terms of, or have each of these give an answer and then tell it, okay, which one has proven, which of these principles has proven to give best results or something?
If I understand your question correctly, I'm going to answer it a little indirectly, but maybe this will get around it. So I work for a company. I'm the CAIO for a telehealth company. That's one of the things I do. So CAIO is Chief AI Officer. And sometimes we don't have time to have a meeting. So I have created these profiles for everybody, my CEO, my COO, my CMO, all these people. And I've taken all these interviews that we do, huddles and that sort of thing. And I have had Claude build a YAML file for each one of them. So it knows how they think, and I can run a session and get very high probability on knowing what the outcome of that would be, that meeting would be, by people that I actually know. So that's one use case. Another use case is I know of experts that if I could pick up the phone and call them, I would in a heartbeat to get an answer to a particular question. That's the second use case, outside experts. The third one is I don't even know who to ask. I have this problem and I don't know who to ask, but Claude knows. So give me the best ones in the world-class experts on this specific solving this specific problem. Surface those things to me and then build a profile for them the same way that my other profiles are built. And you can reverse engineer that. You can say, pick one of the profiles and say, create a profile template so that I can use it, make an MD file on how to build a profile so that you can just reference that and it'll be in there for you. So they're all consistent that way. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Charles, I have a question. Once you get this structure set up, can you, and obviously if I'm sitting in front of my Claude, I can use it, but is it possible to make this available to members of a group, let's say, so they can each come in and do their own work or work?
Okay, so the concept can work not as a skill. It can just be in a project. You can have all of your files in a project, probably separate files, separate MD files sitting there in the side of the project, and the crit session, how it should be run in there, either as a system prompt in the project, so you only use that project for that thing, which is what I would recommend. Okay, so now you've got everything you need to do everything you need to do, and you just go into the prompt and tell it what the specific problem is that you want to solve. So that's one way to do it in Claude. You could do the same thing in a project in GPT, same way. Or you can do it as a skill. You can export this skill as a zip file and put it into ChatGPT and it'll work there too. So it's mobile. You can move it around. You could put it in a repository if you want to and pull it into Cursor or any of the IDEs that people like to work with. It's really just a process is what you're moving around, just information and some data.
Okay, so I'm looking at putting it on a web page within a membership site.
I would be a little bit careful about taking somebody else's framework like crit specifically. And I think the digital twin concept, pretty much everybody, that's free to use for everybody. The concept itself, I would probably not try to monetize myself because I took it from somebody else. So that's my stand on that. If it's part of a process where you're using, let's say you're a college professor and you have a textbook and they buy the textbook. Now we're going to come and use it like this book here, a workbook on how to do a thing. Now you're taking that skill and you're adding your own take on how to employ it. That's a different thing. And so if you do it that way, I think you're good. You just think about it as common sense, really.
Okay, thanks. I just ordered the workbook, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think, this is honestly, the workbook's it's okay, but I wanted to see what was in it.
Same thing. I've got Jeff Wood's book. I've had it for a while.
Oh, good.
And I haven't really gotten into it. So the workbook might prompt me.
Good. Are we condensing on that, Darby? How did that come out?
Yeah, it's condensing and overall said a lot of stuff that I was aware of. And the questions it was saying, and like in terms of alignment, make a lot of sense. Like Mark Nathan's actually someone we've been talking to. My co-host on this has been talking to him as well. And it's interesting seeing how it's saying what they would say and questions to ask them. I think that was a really good part of this.
Did it had already?
I haven't had it do a debate.
It's supposed to, as part of the crit session, properly run. It will at the phase 3, I think, will start it'll go 3 rounds. So you might have to explicitly ask how many rounds you want it to go. Otherwise, it might just spit out a consensus without doing that. But you want it to go 3 rounds. The first round, everybody states their position on the question. You have a question. This is their take on it. This is what they would do. Round 2 is this person disagrees with this person, disagrees with this person, and so they go at each other. And then round 3, if your T on crit is task, what do you want? What's the output you want? I want consensus. That means that they're going to have to concede in order to get consensus. So they, on round 3, they will start conceding. I'll concede this if this. And it's interesting to see them do that. But you have to be specific on how you want what you want your outcome to be when you do the crit session. I didn't have time to tell you front. So
yeah, it's important context for maybe even updating this skill as you refine it to make sure that it follows that path. Because it didn't, because like Mark Nathan wasn't part of the original like board of advisor type of people that were part of the skill like initially, but it's probably a lot more relevant for getting advice on something like this for Austin-based events. Because if you're in Austin, you do events, you're probably aware of him in some way, especially if you're in CPG. So I think it's interesting that they pick people that were actually like Austin-based. I don't know this guy. Maybe I've heard of his name before. Oh, Hybrew. Actually, I'm in conversation with them right now. So that's cool.
That I would do on something like this is I would ask it before I ran it. I would say, after, like in the middle here, I would say, who else should I include on this panel that, if who would be important to include in this conversation, something like that, that might be outside the normal, your close and things like that, just to come in that. Or it might be important to add a contrarian, because AI can be very sycophantic. And so you say, I want at least one good contrarian in here that's knowledgeable in this space, that kind of thing. You can shape these a great deal.
Yeah. And
thanks
we're
for
right back.
letting me share that, by the way, today.
Hey, you bet. Thank you for being open to sharing it. I think we're right back to where we ran into at the beginning of this conversation with Claude not wanting to proceed with what John was talking about. That's a really cool exercise to run through and like helpful in seeing and aligning where the stuff is. And I'll share the skill with everybody here that has access to it inside the community and whatnot. I think there's a lot of levers to maybe improve on. Why is it not doing this? We'll wrap things up here in just a couple minutes because it won't go to over an hour and a half. There's a lot of you here that have stuck with us on this call. Do you guys find these sessions where we're going into the recipe development side of things helpful? Do you like this format of, like I said, I mean, we got one more week of these with Claude. Hopefully you guys are all leveling up your skills with Claude in general throughout this process. Like at the end of the day, it's up to you to implement, which is an obvious thing to say, but if you don't actually do the work with Claude and test it out and explore and experiment, then you're not going to get very good results. So as we continue these types of sessions, obviously one of the things that we've wanted to do in the community has been like keep like a focus on a tool or a platform that we can utilize, and Claude has been the go-to for this month. There's been interest in people joining some sort of like book challenge or book intensive for writing a book out, which we may have some sort of cohort start with that in February. But I think we also have the opportunity to double down on Claude next month, as opposed to pivoting to another tool, which there's so many AI tools out there. But do you guys like the focus with Claude right now? Or would you like to go deeper on this sort of style?
I've been a Claude person from the beginning. I keep abreast on most of them, and they all have their advantages and disadvantages, but Claude is my favorite. So I'm any exposure I can get, I'm going to try to do that I have time for.
This has been eye-opening, Darby. I mean, it has opened, it has definitely opened up many possibilities. As you said, we have to get down on it and do things. But
I'm glad to hear that. I think the opening up of Claude skills and that unlock with connectors and building out stuff like this there's so many possibilities for it. I think we could probably spend the next 11 months focusing on Claude and all of the things that will come with it.
The principles will cross to other LLMs, a lot of them that will apply. So it's not totally Claude.
This is like the output of the consensus, the conversation. Round 1, opening positions, Mark's opening positions. Yes, this is a good point. Like I was at an event last night, and there was a guy that has a pretty big following on LinkedIn. He's, I would love to come to this event. And so he's like, let's talk about sharing it on LinkedIn with your network, and getting people to invite and share and openly say they're going to come is going to be a big one. Sponsorships every day, sales cycle small.
You'll find some of them will be very opinionated.
Well, like it's like her position. It's interesting just like seeing like how would these personalities, and I don't know any of them, like very like beyond some general conversation, but I don't know Holly. So she may contest that she wouldn't say this, but she might be like, yeah, that's what I would say. What if we didn't? Come back there. Incredible content. I don't know, Dr. Nikki, did you already get a ticket to the show? And I asked if you were going to be in town for it.
I don't know if I purchased one yet. I thought I did, but I'll double check.
I'm not sure. I just know I shared it with you, and you said that you were going to be in town, so I'm looking forward to it. I think I've got 4 or 5 more people from the event last night that are going to be coming, so it's going to be a fun room. Cody Sanchez, I don't know if you guys, she's the contrarian thinker, like she's got the whole contrarian like mastermind and stuff. Mainstream, going to be asshole. He spent weeks in this. Yeah, zero close, boom, debating, business model unclear. Yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah, the debate. Yeah, this is obviously a lot to review, and we could spend some more time on it. I will go back through and review this because it's really interesting to see where this thread went. This is what the panel consensus was. So we went through this whole process, this panel consensus, priority 100 DMs, which I will more than likely be doing another round of these this afternoon. I was already planning on it, so that's good. Yes, Clean is actually just doing an in-kind donation, so that's fine. We get some free products. Same with Get Soul. Commit publicly. That's good. That's a good hyper-targeted approach.
Darby, you will have anything that you'll give afterwards because I have to go.
You say?
The chat will be saved, won't it?
Yeah, I'll update the room in the mastery section with the chat, the file. I'll add these skills into here from what I made today. And yeah, I'll post that later this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Bye.
All right, guys. Yeah, I think that's a good point to end on today's call. Thank you, Charles, for sharing that process. It was fun to walk through and see another approach on the strategic side. Any last thoughts, questions, comments? Yeah.
Yeah. Really
Great session. Awesome. Love it. We'll be back at it here Tuesday. We've got 2 more calls for the sessions. Probably by that time, we'll have a better idea for what continuing these types of cohorts and containers will look like for those that are interested. Dr. Nikki just got her ticket to the event. Everyone here, fly out to Austin for the event. I'm going to be focusing on selling tickets and having arguments with my fictional AI, not fictional, but my AI advisor board. Tell me to get my ass in gear and sell some tickets. All right. John, I got that link. Thank you for sharing it. If you want to shoot me a message on school, if you have any other context on that or whatever, I'm happy to chat more if you have any other thoughts. Or
I don't know that many people in Austin. I know Andy from his VC time, and he's a great guy.
Oh, I'm actually already connected with him. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to message him right now about the event.
Say hi for me. We talked in a while, but we communicated last week.
Cool. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Later.
Thanks, guys. Great session.
Cheers,
Charles,
y'all.
great stuff,
Bye.
Charles. That's very exciting what you brought up today.
Have fun. Go do it now.
Yeah.
Do it.
I'll get this up in the classroom ASAP, y'all. Cheers.